Okay, tonight's super cool. First off, I get to see you guys. It's been a while. I miss you guys. But I, like you all, was blessed to be in an amazing youth group growing up. And one of my dear friends, you know how you've got some brothers and sisters here that you like literally love them like brothers and sisters? You know what I'm talking about because I see it all the time with you guys. Well, I have a friend here tonight. We grew up not just in youth group, but children's church, middle school. Scott, you're lucky I didn't bring some pictures. Man, I could have brought some good ones. But Scott Symington and I, we grew up together in church and in youth group. And Scott's sister is like my best friend. Like I stood up in her wedding, matron of honor and maid of honor. Like we go way back. And it's cool because Scott was very fervent in youth about apologetics. And I remember him being passionate about his faith then, and it has just grown and exploded as he's grown up. And I still can't believe we're this grown up. Even though when it comes to games, adulthood is out the door. But I'm really, really happy to introduce to you Scott Symington, good friend and brother. Yay! And you're all set.
Love you, sis. I'll start with a public service announcement. Don't drive distracted. I just had my car all fixed up and detailed and everything to bring to my niece and give her her first car. And as I was driving back, some distracted driver put my head through the window. Yeah. So I got to wear this for about a year. So just so you kind of know why it's there. But it's a good thing to announce just because it happens a lot more than you think. In fact, I couldn't get too mad at it because about 2 minutes earlier on the road, I had looked down at something and I was like, oh, I was kind of distracted there. All right. This is for you. This service is for you. So if I'm going too fast, I tend to talk pretty quick. Feel free to stop me and say, oh, whoa. Go back and rewind that a little bit. I didn't understand what you said there because we're covering some big topics today. And if you have questions, feel free to ask. If I think if it's slowing down the flow too much where I'm not going to get to where I need to for the rest of the people, I'll just stay after as long as you want. And you can ask questions as long as you need to. So today, I should start up on the stage to start, I guess, for the video. I love these. I do audiences at universities and churches from middle school up to adults. I've been doing a lot of adults lately, but I love your guys' group. And I love it especially because I get to totally mess with your minds. I don't mean figuratively. I mean literally cause changes in your brain. Because every time you learn something new, your brain has to make a new electrical chemical pathway, make new networks in there. And unfortunately, much of the stuff I'm going to be telling you is going to be new to you. So your brain will literally grow. Now, we're going to start with something that you might be familiar with. Watching a nature show, they showed at the savannah. In the savannah, you have a bunch of different organisms. You might not be able to see that, but savannah is the grasslands out in Africa. A lot of different organisms trying to survive and thrive. The two top predators are hyenas and lions. Now, the lions are the top predator. They are nature's pure athlete. However, what this show was focused on was kind of a struggle between a pride of lions and I think they call it a cackle of hyenas. Now, even though the lion is the top athlete, top predator, doesn't mean they're not vulnerable. This show was showing this hyena group where they would catch lions if they were old, if they were sick, if they happened to just not be paying attention, get a little bit too far behind the rest of the pride, they'd get gang attacked and taken out. The young ones, if they could ever grab a young one and take off, a young lion, the hyenas would do that. So the hyenas were just dominating this lion pride. To the point where, near the end of the show, the lions were off just trying to get some food with their beat-up pride, and the hyenas went to where the lion's den was and peed over the whole area. And then they walked across the river, and they sat and waited for the lions to come home. When they did, the lead hyena walked right up to the river and starts cackling the way they do. And as the lions are looking and like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. So even though the lions are so powerful, they're still vulnerable. And the sad thing is, This is exactly true with the Christian church today. Now, what I found, I saw this as I was growing up, and I did some testing myself, and now the studies are all showing it. When you push God out of the public schools, which, okay, they're doing it because they say they don't want indoctrination. Of course, now you're indoctrinating into no God belief, but still, I understand why they did it. I worked in a public school. The problem, though, is when you artificially push God out and you're not seeing where God fits in, then who's going to pick up the slack? Is it church leadership or parents? No, they don't have time to become experts in science, history, and philosophy, and so on. What should have been happening is geeks like me who are in the church, who are experts in this area, needed to start sharing this stuff. And it hadn't been happening. It's happening now, but we have a lot of ground to make up on. Because on every test that I did with top youth groups, I'd either come in posing as an atheist, I've been doing it for 20 years, me and my brother did, or we would just ask basic questions. So why do you believe what you believe? Why do you believe the Bible over the Quran? We'd ask these questions, and top youth groups, didn't matter. We got stammering, anxiousness, total non-confidence, and really, really weak answers. And then the tragic stories started coming in. A friend of mine had his Marine buddy call him just crying. He said, my daughter, he knew his daughter. His daughter was the top, she led the youth group. And she was going to go off to North Carolina University and turn that campus over to Christ. Phone call right before Christmas was, well, Dad, I'm coming home. Got something to tell you. I am going to go to the Christmas church service with you, but I don't believe it anymore. I'm just going because I want to do the family thing. And this story is happening all over the place. So what's the goal of this program? Our culture is saturated with predators that are coming after Christians. But if Christianity is true, and all the evidence points that it is, then we are the top predators. The only way we're going to get caught is if we're not prepared. So what this is to do is, if we're vulnerable, I want to make you too dangerous for the predators. After we've trained a bunch of people on this, predators do not go after the strong. You look how nature works. They go after the weak. No, anyone who's rejecting God and wants to try to make fun of Christianity, they run into someone who has some answers, they back off. The last thing they want to hear is reasons why God exists, and they better deal with them. So one goal is we want to make you too dangerous for the predators. Number two, so why do you believe? We want you to have reasons why you believe what you believe. You believe Jesus is the only way to salvation? Yeah, I do too. So why? Why would you believe somebody was raised from the dead 3,000 years ago? Now, there's a lot of reasons. God's Spirit, He reaches to us spiritually, so you can have all kinds of different reasons. But if we want to follow the mission that this church has of reaching other people, how did Jesus do it? He reached them where they were at. And where our culture is at is they want science answers, they want reasons, they want evidence. And the good thing is it's there. So we can give you reasons to support your belief that none other belief system can reach. All different belief systems, they contradict each other on the most important point, which means only one at most can fit reality. And if that's true, if Christianity is accurate, we're going to get support from every field of study that no other belief is going to reach. So even though we're behind the game right now because we haven't been getting taught, it's easy for us to catch up and get to the top. And then finally, we want you to have some confidence in sharing. We don't want you to miss opportunities where a friend asks you, well, why would a loving God allow pain? If He's all powerful and He's all loving, why is He allowing pain? We want you to have answers right away and be able to help these people come to get the good, the most wonderful thing that you have. So those are the goals. The goals for today are a little bit more simple. First, I want you to have one reason that's going to motivate you why you need to care about this. Why do you need to get reasons to help others? Because if you don't have a reason, then you're just going to be thinking about some boy or girl, or you're going to be thinking about a TV show you're going to watch. You're going to daydream right now. You're not going to listen to any of this. So I need to show you that this is very serious. So I want you to have one reason. Oh, do we give the handouts? Oh, awesome. Okay. A second thing is, I want to show you what the real relationship is between science and Christianity. I can't tell you how many kids have come to me and said, yeah, my teacher told me I either have to believe science and the stuff they're teaching in school or my church. I have to believe one or the other. That drives me nuts. I said, whoever told you that either doesn't really understand science, doesn't really understand Christianity, or doesn't really understand either, because what they said is absolutely inaccurate. Of course, no teachers ever wanted to debate me on it, because the facts are too far on this side. It's not like Christians are better debaters. We don't need to be. The evidence is on our side. It's not a fair fight. And even though I'm using words like fight and predator, the one place where this analogy breaks down is we're not trying to crush the opponent. We're trying to love them. We're not trying to win the argument. We're trying to win the person. So as we're doing these things, we need to do them with love and for the right reason, but definitely stand strong for holding down what the Christian beliefs are that are accurate. And so the last thing is today, I'll give you the real relationship between science and Christianity. And then after that, we're going to give you just one reason from science that you can use to tell anybody why you believe there's a God behind the Bible. And it's using the greatest discovery in modern science. Okay, so first, part one. We want to see how vulnerable you are. So what we're going to do this with a test. Now, the mean way I do it is when I come in here and pose as an atheist and just try to rip Christianity and see how well you answer it. Here's a nicer way. I'm going to give you 3 common questions. And I'm going to give you a minute or 2 on each question. We want to see how well you can answer these right now. Now, you might not be able to read this, but I want you to rank yourself from 0 to 10. And so here it is. And I think I put it on the sheet.
Yes, you did.
Excellent. Okay. So when I give you these questions, if you think I could answer these questions right now, anytime, I'll have total confidence and I could handle anybody on this, you're at an 8, 9, or 10. If you're like, well, I might be able to answer these questions, maybe not, maybe my answers will hold up, maybe not, then you're in the middle range. You're like 4 to 8. If you're like, oh my goodness, I would not have a lot of confidence answering this, I really don't think my answers would hold up, you're at a 0 to 4. Now, do not feel bad if you are at a 0 to 4. Yes? Oh, there's a part 1 and part 2. Okay, well, yeah, they'll get it around. Okay. If you are a 0 to 4, don't feel bad. The entire Christian church pretty much is. And it's not your fault. People like me should have been stepping up a long time ago giving you this stuff. So the ball was dropped, and it's not your fault. Again, the good news is, to get to an 8, 9, or 10 is less work for you than anyone in any other belief system. Yeah, well, you'll see. We'll get to it. Now, if you think you're pretty good, though, if you think you're at a 7, 8, 9, or 10, I want to see how you go with me. So I'll give you these questions. If you think you're at a 7, 8, 9, or 10, I'm going to want you to raise your hand because I want to test you. All right? All right, here's the questions. The first one is this. You're watching a nature show where Stephen Hawking, greatest scientist of our time, is what our culture looks at him, he says that, well, the universe was created through quantum mechanics and gravity. You don't need God. We know how it was created, quantum mechanics and gravity. So your friend says to you, and this happens, I got stories, says, well, science conflicts with religion. I have to accept one or the other, so I'm going to go with Stephen Hawking. If you think your Bible's right over Stephen Hawking, okay, what reason do you have from science that I should believe you over Stephen Hawking? That's one. Just jot down on either the back of the sheet of paper, just somewhere, some of your thoughts, how you might answer it. If you're going completely blank, you're like the vast majority of people, including myself when I was your age. Although I was more arrogant. I thought I was about a 7, and then when someone did question me, I found out I was at about a 0 or 1. And that's what made me get into this. I was like, ooh. If this isn't true, I'm not wasting my time with this. I'm a troublemaker by nature. I'm not wasting time with Christianity if it's not true. But if it is true, there's nothing more impactful than finding what relationship that God wants. And when I looked into it, the answers freaked me out so much, I jumped into this, doing this stuff. All right, so that's first question. Here's second question. Oprah basically said this. I watched a number of Oprah shows. She seemed like a very strong Christian. Found out that was not actually accurate. So Oprah and basically most of our culture will bring this to you. How can you believe that you're right and every other belief system is wrong? Isn't that arrogant, narrow-minded, and intolerant of you? I just believe whatever God there is, I'm a good person, and they'd let me in. So Christianity is just an arrogant, intolerant, narrow-minded belief system. How would you answer that? This comes up all the time. And here's a third one. In a conversation, you just had a history lesson where they cover our Bible in like 5 minutes, and somebody says to you, well, you believe in the Bible. Why do you believe in the Bible? Like it's from God. I mean, it was written by people. It was written thousands of years ago. It changes over time, kind of like the phone game. It gets passed down, and changed. Give me a reason that, why should you believe there's a God behind the Bible any more than the Mormons or the Hindus believe in their stuff? How'd you answer that? Now, I will tell you this. The skeptic's questions sound awesome at first. You wouldn't believe how good the answers to these are, though. And when you do a good comprehensive case, like I said, there's only one belief system where all the evidence from science, history, logic, philosophy, it all trends upward in support, and that's Christianity. In every other belief system, it trends in the opposite direction. And we're going to let you see some of that. But for right now, how would you answer this? Okay, anyone at a 7? Give yourself a little ranking now. From a 0 to 10, where do you rank yourself? And then I'm going to call in a bunch of people, see how well you do. But if there's a 7, I'm calling on you first. Or an 8, 9, or 10, even better. Yes. Ooh, excellent. Okay, do you want to try to answer one? It lines up in history in what way? Can you give me an example? That's true. There has been some artifacts that prove that some of the things in the Bible said actually happened. So that's a good answer. And thank you. You are very brave. Almost nobody steps up and saying there are 7, 8, 9, or 10. Now, so number 1 is more of a sciencey area, though. It kind of is not really history. Is anyone 7, 8, 9, or 10 want to go after that? Okay.
Because science is always changing and the Bible is exactly the same.
That's a really good answer. Here's how, can I go, I'm going to be a skeptic a little bit, all right? Well, what science does is, as we learn things over time, we critique each other and everything, and then over time, science gets closer and closer to what the reality is. And after this much time and this much discovery, we got very strong evidence that it's quantum mechanics and gravity that created. Now, the Bible doesn't change, and it's too bad the Bible doesn't change, because the Bible teaches things that are really inaccurate about the universe. It says that God created it, when right now, it's like the God of the gaps thing. If you don't know what created lightning, you say Zeus does it. If you don't know what created the universe, you just say God did it. Until we know what creates lightning. It's not Zeus, so we drop him. And now we know what creates the universe. Quantum mechanics and gravity, not God. So I would think we could drop God. What would you think? Now, again, we got some brave ones in here. Okay, and I also lied to you. I'm not going to pick on anyone else in here. I don't want to put anyone on the spot. You're not supposed to, I don't expect anyone to be in a position to answer these yet. So you two, kudos for you for having the guts to even step up in that. And saying that science changes, but the Bible does, that's a good start. But they'll respond the way I did. But a lot of times they'll use it more little ridiculing ways. They'll try to pick out what they think is contradictions in the Bible and so on and so forth. Now, there's great answers to all that. And we're going to go over, just so you don't get too worried, as far as what caused the universe, we do know now the properties of what caused the universe. And the properties fit precisely the characteristics describing God that the Bible gave 3,000 years ago. Quantum mechanics and gravity cannot have caused the universe. We already have shown that scientifically. Now, that's another lecture. So there is a very good answer to that. But so I just wanted you to get a ranking down so you kind of see where you're at and kind of know that we're really not ready to answer what the culture is going to be throwing at us. But there are great answers. So, okay, that's one reason why this stuff is going to be really useful to you. Now, I'm going to show you some of the predators you're going to run into in our culture. Our culture is saturated with people who want to put Christianity down. And think about it. If you wanted to reject God, that's a scary thing. Wouldn't you want to try to humiliate the other side and make it look silly so you don't have to worry about there being a God? So, you'll have memes and things going across Facebook. You'll have, like the Family Guy. Seth MacFarlane, the guy who does the Family Guy, he's a very outspoken atheist. I could give you clip after clip of Family Guy where they take shots at Christianity. And their arguments seem good when you hear them at first, but there's great answers to them. There's a professor there. He straight out said, and they have done studies, professors do have an antagonism against Christian students. And some of them will just come right out and say, I'm going to make Christianity seem silly rather than discussable, so I can get these kids away from these messed up parents that are really hurting their children with this stupid religious stuff. Now, they didn't say it exactly like that. I have this exact quote. But many professors just say that. We're going to make your stuff sound silly. I had a geology professor that said, yeah, I'm going to teach you about the ice ages and also disprove Christianity. I remember thinking, wow, that wasn't in the syllabus. But okay, I'll hear it. Richard Dawkins wrote a book, The God Delusion, bestseller. He said, my goal is anyone who picks this up, any Christian who picks this up will be a non-believer once they put it down. And I've heard a lot of people that worked on. Richard Dawkins is a brilliant biologist, or he works in biology, professor and everything, but he's very, very weak at logic. The argument that he gives in here, a freshman in philosophy would shred it. But Christians, well, people who said they were Christians at least, they've got yanked away. They don't believe now. They've left the faith because of that book and other things in their life, obviously. Aaron Rodgers. Now, he's not really a predator. Him and Katy Perry, though, give a good example of what happens. Both of them were raised Christian, and then they had a lot of questions when they were your age. And both of them said the same thing. You know, I had all these questions that weren't getting answered, so I just walked away. Wouldn't it be nice to have Aaron Rodgers speaking for Christianity and Katy Perry even? But no, they're on the other side now. Now there are people saying Christians don't have answers. They told us just have faith. Now, unfortunately, the Bible doesn't tell us to have the kind of faith that they think. This blind faith idea, the Bible does not tell us to have blind faith. If you look at, God always gives you reasons to trust. When my dad asked me to jump in the scary deep end of the pool, I didn't just blind leap of faith jump. I knew he was a lifeguard before. I knew he loved me and he's taking care of me, so I had reasons to trust. God gives us reasons. You do a study of miracles in the Bible, they're always clustered around people giving new revelation. So it's not a blind faith. So the answers that Katy Perry and Aaron Rodgers gave were not biblical and were very destructive, and now, unfortunately, they're on the outside looking in. Oh, the most recent, I could go on hours about the predators in our culture. I could take any television show, movie, or anything, songs. Here's from Batman vs. Superman. Oh, do we have sound for that? Okay, too bad I'm not a good actor, so I can't give it to you. Basically, Lex Luthor is saying this. First he said, oh, great, we had Horus, then we had Jehovah, now we have you as God. So basically he's comparing Christianity to ancient Egypt religion and to Superman. Then he says, if there's a God, how come he didn't save me from the fists and abominations my dad did to me? Basically he said, I was beaten horribly as a child. If God's all powerful, then he certainly isn't all loving. If he's all loving, then he certainly isn't all powerful. So he just gave the argument from pain, which is a very strong, really, atheism doesn't have any real evidence to go on, so what they can use is emotional arguments like pain. That's a very strong argument because of the emotion involved. Now, if you really go deep into study that argument, you find that it points directly to the God of the Bible. But we don't have time to get into that. However, what happened here was this. You're watching this movie with your friends. He gives a really good sounding thing. Well, yeah, if God's all loving, he wouldn't want pain to it, so he must not be all powerful. But if he's all powerful, he must not be all loving because he let me get really messed up. Oh, do you have a question? Or just the arm? So he gave the argument, and Superman there didn't have the answer, unfortunately. He didn't have the training. So you and your friend can leave that movie with that just hanging out there. Here's a big argument against God. And if Superman doesn't have the answer and you don't have the answer, what's your friend left with? Now, this is a pretty famous picture, but it's not what people think. I thought the guy was just coming out to see the cool waves. That's what I'd be doing. But no, that's Theodore Malgorn. He was off the French coast when a horrible storm came. He was in that lighthouse since the nighttime. The waves then were so nasty, they smashed in through the back window and knocked all the refrigerator and everything down into the lower floors. He heard a helicopter, and he's like, finally, I'm going to get rescued. He opened the door to see, and it was, instead of a rescue helicopter, it was just a photographer who hired a helicopter so he could take a picture of this horrible storm. That guy, they interviewed him later. He said, something just made me, one moment after that picture was taken, he said, something made me leap back inside. If he didn't, he would have been swept right off there, and that would be the last picture before his death. These are Christians. We have a very firm little lighthouse to stand on. Not little. We have a very firm foundation of beliefs to stand on. When life comes through, whatever they throw at us, we have a foundation of beliefs that are accurate. Whenever we have choices or we set goals in our life or objectives or how are we going to act in a marriage, we have a good foundation because it fits reality. However, it doesn't mean we're safe. There's a lot of Christians getting swept right off that foundation. In fact, I mentioned this before. Christians are very weak in their confidence in going out and talking to people about their beliefs. We actually had 2 people step up in here. That's 2 people more than usually do. Even if you don't get swept away, when you start doubting God, because, well, I hear a lot of good arguments against God. I don't have a lot of good reasons, but I still believe. Okay, but that's still dangerous. How dangerous? When they do studies on how we Christians differ from the rest of the world, now it's like this. So they ask, do you believe in real right and wrong? Do you think things are really right and wrong? 96% of our culture today says no. People your age, they said no, there's no real right and wrong. So you think the church might be different, right? 91% of the church doesn't believe in real right and wrong either anymore. It's only 5% difference. That's unreal. And then when you act on that, well, I do have my doubts about God, and I don't really want to follow all his rules. I mean, you're setting yourself up for some huge damage, even if you do come back to him. Study after study have said, you look around you right now, look at your youth group. You have a fantastic youth group. The majority of you will leave the faith shortly after leaving the home. The majority of your people you know here and you see here aren't going to be in the Christian faith shortly after leaving the home. That's what the studies say. You think your church is special? All these other churches thought the same thing. Maybe you are. Maybe it's not quite half. Maybe it's not the majority, actually. It's supposed to be the majority. But then there's other churches who have almost all of them. And the top reasons that we've done all these studies, we interview these people, the top reasons are always the same. I wasn't getting my questions answered. I believe in science. And I don't really have any scientific or other evidence to support why I believe. Now, the tragedy is, if you would just look into it, all of those answers will be given. Science and all the different research supports Christianity in a way it doesn't support any other belief system, including atheism, agnosticism, anything else. So, we did a test to see how vulnerable we were. Second, we met some of the predators. Third, we see that the church is suffering loss. So I'm trying to give you reasons why you should care about this, why you should keep listening, instead of daydreaming or anything else. Now we're going to talk about how to get a date. Now you might be thinking, how in the world does that tie in with all this horror story of how our church is getting hurt? Now you're going to talk about dating? Well, your beliefs are when you're talking about your worldview beliefs, it ties in every part of your life. So there's going to be parallels to everything. Now, what they show right there is it's a pizza box. On the top it says, I know this is cheesy, but prom? With a question mark. So he's asking this person out to prom by giving her a pizza. The pizza's gone, but she responded back, no, but thanks for the pizza. It is sad. It's mean, but it's still funny. Okay, so now, scientifically, it's been shown that if you want to get a date, in order to have a date, in 100% of the cases where people dated, somebody asked the other person out. Now, that sounds like common sense, but it wasn't common sense to dorks like myself. Because all through high school, I didn't really realize you got to ask someone out. I think if you look at them enough and think about them, all of a sudden somehow you're together. That must have been my thinking. I don't know. But that carried into college. I matured slowly. In college, though, I met a new friend, Ben, and he was awesome. So I'm sitting in the cafeteria, just eating. Ben comes in. He's like, and then I said, hey. He's like, how you doing? And I said, oh, real good. And he's like, what you looking at? I was like, oh, it's that girl I told you about. He's like, oh, the one that likes looking at you and you're looking at her. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, well, you going to ask her out? And I was like, oh, yeah, I will. And he's like, well, how long has this been going on? 3 months. And he's like, 3? Are you kidding me? He's like, what's wrong with you? And I was like, well, it's just not the right time. He's like, okay, you got a problem. He's like, you're going to do this now. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm not. And I go to take a drink. He grabs my hand, puts it down. He's like, you go ask her out now. And I was like, funny. I tried to grab a bite with something. He grabbed both my hands, put them down. And I said, what are you going to do? You can't make me do this. She's with all her friends talking at a table. They're all standing around talking with her. He's like, you have blown this for so long. You need this to happen. So you're going to do it. And he said, I know what'll get to you. What are the pluses and minuses of this? And I was like, I don't want to write out any pluses or minuses. He's just like, with any and he didn't say this part of it, but he's right. In any choice in your life, you look at your pluses, you look at your minuses. If there's more pluses than minuses, it's probably your better decision. So when I looked at it, my minuses only had to do with my ego getting hurt. And my pluses were, maybe she'll say yes. If she doesn't, at least I'll know and not going to waste my time anymore. And there's a bunch of pluses. So I was sitting there, I was like, he's right. I'm worried about my pride. That's pathetic. And there's a lot of pluses. I'm going to have to do this. So I get up. She's about as far away as back there in the red shirt. That's about far away. So I'm not going to walk and ask you out. Don't worry. But I start walking to the table. I was like, oh, please, God, I got nothing to say. Oh, please, God, please, God. And then I'm also at the table. I'm like, I don't got anything yet. I don't have anything. Oh, my goodness, this is crazy. I get to the table, and then all of a sudden, all her friends just stop talking. They're like, huh? So then, somehow it popped in my head, and I just said, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry. I know I'm putting you on the spot, but I just wanted to see if you wanted to go out for some coffee and conversation sometime. And she looks up at me. All her friends are like, looking at me, and she goes, no, I have a boyfriend. Ooh. All her friends then, all their breaths just stopped because, they're kind of rooting for you, if anything, and they also want to see what's going on. And then I said, again, I'm sorry, I know I put you on the spot. I just thought you were attractive. I didn't want to miss the opportunity. Thanks for being honest, though. And then I just walked away. Now, as I walked away, I was like, yeah, that was awesome. I felt more happy than maybe if she said yes. I mean, it was so exciting because I was like, that was the right thing to do. I have no regrets. Now, I've used actually that line, or that line of thinking, and I've asked so many people out, and I've met some neat people, had some good dates, probably got rejected more than any of you put together, but no regrets because the pluses outweighed the minuses. Now, the same thing we can look at with our choice with God and whether we're supposed to share. Should we learn information that our culture needs and share with them or not? What I want you to do right now is I want you to think of some minuses. What are some bad things that may happen to you if you try sharing your faith with somebody? If you stand up to, well, I wouldn't suggest standing up to a professor because they got the microphone, so it's not a fair fight. But sometimes you can. I have. But what if your friend has a tough question? What if someone just says any of the challenges we gave about the Bible? How can you believe that? What are some bad things that can happen to you if you stand up? Because I want to do this fair. If your minuses outweigh your pluses, don't share your faith. I mean, God made us rational. If it's going to cost you more negative than positive, you shouldn't share your faith. You shouldn't bother learning this stuff. If the positives outweigh, well then, you go that route. All right, can you give me some? Yes. Oh yeah, you can get teased. To your face and behind your back. Yes. That is a big minus. Yep.
You might lose friends.
You can definitely lose friends. Yep, that can definitely happen. You're getting some of the good ones, yep. Now that's one I haven't, because say it again? It's possible to push them farther from the faith. Most of the time, you'd only push them farther if you act like a jerk at the same time, because Christians aren't supposed to be jerks. But if you answer it in a way that's just wrong, like you tell them something, well, you should believe because of this, and what you told them isn't even true, then you are going to push them away. That is a possibility. Great point.
If you're not prepared, and then like there's a lot of other people listening, and then the other person kind of like tells better answers, and then the other people are just like, oh, they're right.
Yeah, that can all happen. Good ones. Here's what I've heard from when I do this to a lot. May lose a friend and be shunned by some. Yep, even act against you. People even lost their jobs over becoming Christians. People don't like to have their beliefs challenged, and they may show it. You might get some conflict shoved in your face. Others will bring challenges and cause doubts in you. See, this is what I talked about being vulnerable. If we don't have enough reasons why we believe in the areas that our culture has, we might get some doubts ourselves when we're trying to witness. That's why this is dangerous. You may be tagged as weird, miss out on some things, lose a job. You can experience anxiety, awkwardness, and you don't feel like you have all the answers. What about those are serious minuses. Yep, those are serious minuses. What about the pluses? Take a minute or two. You'll be first. What are some pluses of why you should share your faith? And you should learn some of this stuff that our culture needs. I mean, Jesus he went with directly what people need. The woman at the well, she's all about getting the water. He went right to the living water. He knows what people are after. I'm going to give you a couple more minutes. Yes?
Because it will build your confidence to share more and more.
Yeah. When you do something, the more you practice at it, the more confidence you're going to have building up. So yeah, that's a positive. I guess we can start with some positives right now. Go ahead. Did you have one? Yeah.
I was thinking like if somebody was feeling encouraging, they realize they can take God and then they start believing.
That is excellent. Even if you totally don't have a good answer for them, but you at least put God out there as an option, that will stick in their mind, because this isn't you earning their salvation. That God does that. But if you give them some reason to think about God, yeah, that might be all it takes. So that's a good point. Yes? You can learn something from them. You might have a belief that's not accurate. If it's based on the Bible, it'll be accurate. But you might have something that isn't. And you might learn something else new anyway. Yep.
This one's kind of obvious, but I mean, you can bring people to God.
Okay, you can bring people to God. Yeah, this one sounds kind of obvious. It makes it sound like it's not a big answer. Think about this, though. It's the biggest. You're talking about someone's eternity in either separation from God, which means separation from all the things that God is, which is all the good things, which means your separation is going to be suffering, or a relationship with God both in this life, which can benefit you, and eternally. If you could be a part of one person having an eternity, I would say that outweighs anything that good or bad happens to you throughout your entire life.
This builds on what someone else said, but, even if you do it all right and they still say no, you plant the seed in there and it'll make it easier for others.
Yeah.
Somewhat.
The seed planting, yep. I think there was someone back here, yep.
You could gain a friend, like if they didn't know them, like know God and be like, oh hey, what's this? And you'd be like, oh, this is what this is, and then it goes.
Excellent. Excellent. Just like you can lose a friend, you can gain one. Because some people are just so close. And if you're part of their salvation and what God brings to them, I think they're going to have some favorable views to you. Any others? All right, let me just tell you what others said. May gain a friend, interaction in, here's another thing. You have different parts of life: mental, physical, emotional, spiritual. If you're not talking spiritual life with your closest friend, you've just lost a quarter of the most important things to be having conversation with. I get bored by people that can't go deeper. Once you experience something deeper like God, people who can only go, now, is there time to talk about, there's a thing, weak minds talk about other people, average minds talk about events, advancing minds talk about ideas. No, I think it's a little harsh. I think there are times to talk about other people and events, of course. But there is something special about talking about the deeper things. You might be part of a person having their never-ending existence turn good. And think about it from that person's perspective. Just think about this. See if this is a reason for you to share with others. If you did not have a relationship with God and you were heading to separation from God, which we call hell, would you want someone to come after you? I've had atheists, in fact, Penn and Teller, those the magicians, the really tall one, I think that's Penn, I think. He said, one thing I got to say about Christians, he's a total atheist, very outspoken. He said, I respect them coming after me witnessing, though, because if they really think that there is an eternity in a good or bad, if they're not coming to help me, how wicked are those Christians? He said, if I saw someone about to get hit by a car, I'd be screaming after them. I don't care what their feelings were. I'd be all on them to get them out of the street. And heaven or hell is a lot more serious than getting hit by a car. So Christians should be sharing. That's an atheist saying that. Here's one that might be important. God tells us to. I mean, it's the mission, this church's mission and vision and all that. That ties in with it. 1 Peter 3:15, always be prepared to give an answer to anyone who asks you to give a reason for the hope that you have. If people are asking you for reasons to believe, you have to give them reasons that are going to be helpful to them. And our culture really wants the science and the evidence type stuff, history, logic, so on. There's other verses I could support that with. 2 Corinthians 10, 3-5 is a good one. Being able to experience God's work and be a part of it. And the pastor hit on that today. It's an awesome thing. You'll become too dangerous for the intellectual predators. You get on top of this stuff, it's a lot easier for you than any other belief system because we actually have the facts on our side. You'll be too dangerous for them coming after you. And that's a good thing. If you squander the opportunities God gives you, think about how many times God gave the talents story. If you don't use opportunities he gives you to share, okay, I'll take them and I'll give them to somebody else. And you lost that. And that's pretty serious. And then here's something else. It's the best investment opportunity possible. I can be self-centered. The reason why I'm a Christian is I know it's the best thing for me. It's the one that's true. That's why I'm a Christian. It's true, so it's the only one I can count on. Now, think about this. God puts us here to have relationship with him, develop our relationship, and to bring others to him. All right? So he's going to put a lot of opportunities in your life to bringing people to him. The only way you lose is if you don't play. This race is one you always win just by entering. If you go in with good heart, you're trying to witness to someone, not trying to show off you're smart or something for foolish motivation like that, but if you're trying to save them, even if you totally mess it up, doesn't matter. God is cheering you on. That's it. That's it. Because you are doing what he wants you to, and that's what he's pleased. The only time God is not pleased, and you just lost some opportunity, you might have some talents, might be the lower talent people, like in the story, is when you don't step up. So this is like a stock market. If you invest, you're going to win. Guaranteed. All you got to do is get in, invest, by talking to people. All right. So I want you to pick out a reason that's going to motivate you, so that you have a reason why you're going to learn some of this and actually use it to help share with others. Because if you don't, you'll just get caught in the daily grind. You'll blow this all off. You need a reason that's good for you, especially since you have some costs. You do have some costs. You can be made fun of, you can look bad, you can feel nervous, all that stuff. However, just like in my little asking the person out on the date, I think the pluses far outweigh the minuses. And you only lose by not going for that. If you love others as yourself, what would you want them to do for you? Would you want them to come try to help you get to God? That could be one. It's the best possible investment. You can't get away from this. This is not optional. God didn't give us a choice whether there's a lot of people out here thinking, well, I'm super shy, I just can't get out and talk and that. Well, God doesn't give you the option of not doing it. Moses was not a speaker. He's like, God, I don't want any part of this. God's like, who are you talking to? Just do it. So all of us are called to do it. Maybe in different ways, though, but all of us are called to. Okay, so now we talked about why you should care, and I hope you have, and really out of this whole thing today, you're going to forget 99.5% of the stuff I tell you. There's only a couple things I want you to know. One of them is have a reason why you're going to do this. What will motivate you to learn at least a little bit of stuff to support your belief and a reason to go share that with others. And in your thing, I have a little box in there. It says have your one reason or something. Go ahead and write your reason in there. The next two things we're going to do for the last part of this is, when do we end? 7? Okay. The last two parts is, what's the real relationship between science and Christianity, and one reason why you should believe there's a God behind the Bible. So now I'm going to get into the meat of this. All right, this is where I'm going to give you something. Okay. Now, when I say I'm going to give you some science, many of you instantly just shut your brain off. You're like, I hate science, I hate math, it's not my thing. But no. Science is every one of your thing. You've done it naturally since childhood. Now, you might not like all the scientific terms and stuff you're going to learn in school. That doesn't matter. Every single one of you, whether you think you're good in science or not, you are, because you're surviving right now. You use science naturally since childhood, and I'll prove it with my example. One of the earliest memories I have, like literally, one of the earliest I have, we were in a class, and we were all so young, all 7 of us had to hold hands. I don't know, 7, 10, I don't remember how many of us there were, but we all had to hold hands, and it was our first field trip in my life. We were going to some museum. So we hold hands from the little bus into the museum, then we sit down. I was sitting at one end holding hand, then the teacher was in the middle holding hands, more student holding hands. The last person held the hand of the museum director who was reading us a story. I was immediately bored. So as I'm sitting there, I look around, I was like, ooh, an open electrical socket. Now, the basic steps of the scientific method that I later learned in school was exactly what I used right then. Here's what they are. These are the basic methods. Step 1, you make an observation or you have a problem to solve. My problem was, if I jam my hand in there, will it just shock me, or can I get it all the way around and get that guy who's reading to us? Step 2 is hypothesis, based on your current knowledge. I was like, well, my mom told me if I jam metal into a socket, I'll get zapped. My dad told me and I tried it, if you take something and touch the electrical fence, you can get zapped. So it might be able to make it all the way to that guy. I think it might work. Step 3 is testing data. That's the fun part. I jammed my hand and made sure that my fingers hit all the prongs that I saw in there. Back straightening jolt hit me and went all the way around the line and got the guy reading. Step 4, conclusion. Yes, you can make electricity go through all the whole line of people and get that guy reading to us, and then share your results, which I'm doing right now. All right, so that's one of my earliest memories. So we all do it naturally since childhood. So now, we're going to talk about the actual relationship between science and religion. Then we're going to talk about the greatest scientific discovery, and then we're going to look at the scoreboard. All right. Imagine you have to be a night watchman for a gigantic house, but you have to just stay in an office. How do you keep track of everything to make sure no one's getting in or out, it's all safe? You got security cameras. So you have a bunch of different security cameras. Now, some places might be off in a corner, so you might have to turn 2 cameras or 3 cameras to that area to really see it, or some big areas you might need a bunch. That's a good system, and it works. We have the same system to make our choice about beliefs. We have many different cameras. We have science, history, common experience, theology, philosophy, a bunch of different things. Now, what is science and religion really? Really, when people tell me, well, science is against religion, like I said before, they don't really know what they're talking about science or religion, but I don't even use religion. Religion is like how we organize around a belief system. So I use theology. Theology is a study of God. That's where we get our learning about our worldview beliefs. So now, what is science really? Science is just like a camera. It's a method to gain knowledge about reality. And it just has a specific viewpoint. What viewpoint does science use? Science uses a scientific method. The thing I just gave you, that's the way they view and learn about natural things in the natural world. Now, science has only, just like any camera, it has a certain field of view. I drew it like a little circle. Any camera has a certain field of view that it can see. Science can only see things in that circle. And in the science circle, it's natural things. It can't see stuff outside there. It can make guesses about it, but it can't see it. Theology, on the other hand, does it have the same point of view as science? No, it has a different point of view. It doesn't use a scientific method entirely. It does a little bit, but it uses either communication from God or study about God. So it's a different camera, and it sees a different area. But there are places where those science view and theology view cross each other. In that intersection is the best place to test for truth. Do you have a question? Oh, okay. Okay. So, we are going to use basic scientific method steps, and we're going to test this right now to see what's the relationship between science and theology. Okay, let's start with an observation or a problem to solve. We exist. If we exist, all this natural stuff in our universe exists, there's only 2 possibilities. People say, oh, learning your beliefs, knowing what to believe is so hard. No, it's not. It's simple. You just haven't looked. How simple, and it's true. How simple is it? We exist. There's only 2 possibilities. Either there was no beginning and the universe existed eternally, or there was a beginning to space and time and everything that we know. No beginning or a beginning. Only 2 options. Second step of the scientific method. What are your theories or your hypotheses or your models? Well, this works really cool too because they divide very cleanly. On the side that said there was no beginning, the universe just existed eternally, was all of science, up until around Einstein's time. They all believed there was no beginning. All religions not tied in with the Bible. So your Greeks, your Enuma Elish from Babylon, which all the different religions said there was no beginning, except for those tied in with the Bible, the monotheism religions, and common experience. The sun goes up, the sun goes down, it did yesterday, it will today, it will forever. So basically, everybody was saying the universe existed eternally. On the other side, 3,000 years ago, the Bible said no. In Genesis 1:1, it said, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now, a child can understand the basic things about the Bible. But you can have triple PhD and not totally get it unless you're looking into it carefully. When it says in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, when it said heavens and earth, those were Hebrew words, shamayim and eretz. When they're stuck together, they don't mean heavens and earth. It's like butterfly. When you stick it together, it's not butter or fly, it's something totally different. When the Bible said God created the heavens and the earth, when you stick those words together, it means absolutely all natural things in this entire universe. And when it says created, Hebrew only had like maybe 4,500 words to work with. So when they say words when they say in Genesis they use created, made, and formed. 3 different words, which is very odd when you don't have a lot of words to work with. When the word they use, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, that word created is bara. That ancient Hebrew word meant creating something entirely new out of something that didn't exist before that God does. So what's the Bible saying? The Bible gave something new that no one else believed in all through history. It said, it's called creation ex nihilo. Everything that there is was created out of, so all matter, energy, space was created out of what didn't exist before. Now, some people think, well, maybe there was a space vacuum. No, all that too. Absolutely all natural things were created out of nothing that was in existence before. And then in John 1:3, it says the same thing. Everything was created, had a cause, had a beginning, except for God. Then it goes on to say more things. It says time had a beginning. That's weird. People thought it's a timeline. It goes infinite in both directions. That's what we were taught growing up. No, it's not a timeline. It's a time ray. The Bible said time had a beginning, and it began at the same time that the whole universe did. The Bible also said it began out of what was not visible. The Bible said it then started following fixed laws. So the Bible made all these weird predictions that no one else believed. Until they did the tests and data. Step 3. Go, there. All right. I'm not going to go over this. We don't have time. I'll go real quick, though. The tests are in. Some of the greatest names in all of science are involved, multiple Nobel Prize winners, and the greatest discoveries in science. What did they find? All of the evidence that we have says the universe has a beginning. There is no evidence supporting that it was eternal. When all the evidence is on one side and no evidence is on the other side, even a football player from Pisgah could figure that out. Like causing some conflict. So all the evidence that we have says, whoa, Bible was right. It freaked the scientists out, and here's why. So I'm going to give you right now, here is the current modern scientific understanding of the beginning of the universe. Oh, and then when you hear the words like Big Bang, how many people think the Big Bang is against Christianity? This is pretty standard. Yeah, this is pretty standard. Pretty standard. All right. What the Big Bang said, what the Big Bang is about is the entire universe, is what I'm going to tell you right now. This is what the Big Bang says. I think most people are against Big Bang because they think it has something to do with young Earth, old Earth, which is a whole other discussion. But it doesn't really. It's about this. This is what was found. Science will now tell you, first there was nothing, not anything, no matter, energy, space, not a vacuum, nothing, no time or anything. Then all of a sudden, the entire universe came into existence. All matter, energy, space. And when it came into existence, not even light could escape, so it was not even visible. And then it started just expanding following fixed laws. Where did I hear that before? Oh yeah, that's what the Bible knew 3,000 years ago. That is serious, and it has messed with many scientists' minds. So, I'll give you an example. Here's basically what's on. If I said right down here, a foot right down here, you'll find a skeleton of a cat. Just a foot down, encased in cement. 20 feet over here, there's a hammer also encased in cement, about 20 feet down. Let's say I say over at one of these walls, if you tear the wall away, what you'll find is there's going to be a plank that didn't make it quite to where it was supposed to, several inches short. I say over on this side, you tear away some of the wall, you'll find a mosaic of Michael Jackson because one of the construction people really liked him, so he wrote a mosaic. Now, let's say some of you are kind of like me, kind of a troublemaker, and you're like, I want to check this guy out. So you're going to, after we all leave, you sneak in here, get a jackhammer, you dig down here, oh my goodness, there's a cat skeleton. Right over where I told you, you find a hammer. You dig up the 2 walls, you find those. You only have so many options. Here's your 3 options. Am I a good guesser? How did I know all those things? Option number 1, I'm a good guesser. Option number 2, just coincidence. Option number 3, I was there or was in contact with someone who was. That is exactly what you see with the Bible. No human could have known those things. I could give you 12 different things. Clear, specific things the Bible predicted 3,000 years before modern science figured it out. And if you're thinking this is just me, a Christian, trying to make this sound right, I'll just read to you the scientists who were actually involved with this. Sir Frederick Hoyle, atheist, he's the one who called it the Big Bang. When Einstein and Hubble said, you're not going to believe it, it looks like there was a beginning to the universe, he's like, that's scientific Genesis. And he's right. He said, what was it, a Big Bang? To make fun of it, and the name stuck. Here's what they say about that. He called it scientific Genesis. Robert Jastrow, founder of NASA's Goddard Institute of Space Studies, an agnostic, well, at least he was, he said, astronomical evidence leads to a biblical view of the origin of the world. The essential element in the astronomical and biblical accounts in Genesis are the same. Nobel Prize winners Penzias and Wilson added, the best data we have concerning the whole Big Bang are exactly what I would have predicted had I had nothing to go on but the 5 books of Moses, the Psalms, and the Bible as a whole. Certainly there's something that set it all off. I can't think of a better theory of the origin of the universe than to match Genesis. Mathematical physicist Frank Tipler says, from the perspective of the latest physical theories, Christianity is not a mere religion, but an experimentally testable science. How atheists got to the Big Bang to sound like it supports them, they must have the best marketers ever. Because the scientists involved know what they found with the beginning of the universe points directly to the biblical God. All right, now, because of time, I'm not going to go through this. There's basically, in all of philosophical and scientific literature, there's only 5 different relationships that science can have with a belief system. Some say they can't interact at all. That's the Noma theory, but we just showed they do interact. Both science and theology talked about the beginning of the universe. Some think that, after I'm done with some of these talks, there are some people saying, well, this proves God. This is absolute proof. I said, no, it's not. You'll never prove God. Because of science and because of the Bible is why I believe that. Science doesn't believe in proof. They say science will just say, wow, you got all this evidence, almost entirely, whatever theory has the most evidence is probably right. But we'll never say there's absolute proof. And the reason why I say the Bible's not talking about proof is God is not looking for people to prove that he exists. That's not the goal. It says demons know that he exists and they shudder. God's not into you knowing that he exists. He's into you trusting in him, believing in him, having a relationship with him. That's a different thing. If you could get your salvation by proving God exists, heaven would look like this. Just a bunch of geeks. Of course, Penny, she wouldn't be in heaven because she's not like the geeks, but okay. So we're not going to get proof. God's not about forcing you to believe by proof. He wants you to have the free will choose to believe in him. So now you only got 3 left. There's a conflict theory that science has conflict with religion. It's going to with every belief system not on reality. So there is going to be conflict between science and every other belief system not accurate. With Christianity, there's one one of the new ones that came out is complex relationship. Just like relationships between men and women, they can be complex. When you got people involved, you'll have a complex relationship. There are some things that seem like they're against Christianity, but they're just apparent because you got people involved and it's complex. And then there's symbiotic. Symbiotic means a relationship where both parties mutually benefit and support each other. Like the clownfish and the sea anemone. Sea anemone protects the clownfish from predators because it's got poison stingers. And the clownfish pulls out dead stuff out of it and circulates the nutrients in the sea anemone. Christianity, if it is accurate, will have a symbiotic relationship not only with science, but also with logic, history, common experience, and every other way you can study it. And over time, the evidence will trend up like that. And that's exactly what we see. So what's the relationship between science and Christianity? It's mutually beneficial and supporting each other. Now, there are some things that seem like conflicts, like the Big Bang, like evolution, but when you look into them, it's not conflict. Scoreboard. All right. The reason why scoreboard's so important is because in sports, as well as in beliefs, worldview beliefs, and a lot of things, there are a lot of opinions, preferences, biases, and hopes. But the scoreboard shows the reality. There was this, Michigan was playing Michigan State, And all Michigan had to do was kick the ball off and just stop it, and they won. And my friend's like, so his team basically seemed like they lost. And he said, you see that guy? There's a guy kind of just like this that was a Michigan State fan. He's like, you see that guy? That's me. And I was like, yep, should be you. His game's over. And then he goes, well, what would have to happen is they'd have to block Michigan's punt and get it and run it in for a touchdown on the last play of the game. I was like, yeah, that's what would have to happen. And then it happened. And then I was like, and then something awesome happened, so I took advantage of it. I said, they showed a picture of a Michigan fan. I said, you see that guy? That's me. That's called the surrender cobra. The reason why he's like this is I had my opinions. Michigan's the better team. They deserve to win that. I had my hopes. Well, maybe there was a penalty. They'll call the play back. And I had all my hopes and opinions and preferences. But the bottom line is scoreboard. All hopes and opinions and preferences and biases get wiped away with reality. We have the same thing with beliefs. We have a scoreboard with Christianity. On your handout, let me take a look at it. I think it'll be, yeah, you're right, maybe it's on this page. Well, it's on a little bit of both. So at the bottom of one, it says, what does the greatest discovery of modern science show? First of all, this is total scoreboard here. The Bible provided accurate knowledge within the science circle, meaning science and Christianity studied the same thing, and even though they were conflict at first, because science didn't believe that it was an eternal universe, now they totally agree each other and support each other. Number two, mutual support and benefit between science and Christianity, so we have mutually benefit and support, but science exposes inaccuracies or non-truth in all the other belief systems. Atheism, agnosticism, Hinduism, Mormonism, a Jehovah's Witness, in every other belief system, because the universe had a beginning, science just said, you're wrong on this. Now, does it disprove those belief systems? I wouldn't call it disproof, but that's pretty serious when you just had one of the most important things of where did we come from and you got it wrong, especially if you're supposed to have a God behind your Bible or your Quran or your Vedas or whatever. Test for truth. Okay. Here we go with this. The Bible provided one of the best tests of truth. A test of truth is something where you can really use to see, are we on the right path here? It used the best test of truth, predictions. The Bible gave multiple clear, specific predictions 3,000 years in advance of modern science. If you want now here's the thing that's in the box I want you to write down, because if you're going to get anything else out of this, just get this one. This is big. If you don't think, if you have a book 3,000 years ago that predicted multiple clear, specific predictions that were only found 3,000 years later, and in all the previous time, everyone was against it. If you don't think this was beyond human ability, so in other words, if you don't think there's a God behind the Bible, if you think the Bible's just man-made, well then, throughout all of history, we should have many, many other examples of that can equal what the Bible did here. I mean, think about it. If the Bible's only for man, and we have billions and billions of things man have produced over time, we should have many other examples that are equal. They should have multiple clear, specific predictions 3,000 years in advance of modern science. I use this everywhere I've gone, in debates against atheists who travel around to all the colleges. We took a group of kids to UC Berkeley to basically have atheists try to convince them atheism is true. And when I asked all the atheists and all the professors, I said, you don't think the Bible's worth looking into further? And no. Then if you don't think there's a God behind the Bible, well, just give me some other examples that match it in these predictions. Dead silence. And then I kept letting it go on and on, just to really rub it in. It's like, what are the examples? They said, there's contradictions in the Bible. I was like, okay, you didn't answer my question. You're going off on another thing because you can't answer my question. I said, I'll answer the contradiction thing. What about this? Then they went off into something else too. And I was like, do you see what's happening here? You guys can't answer this question. This is very simple. If there's not a God behind the Bible, there should be many other comparable examples. What are they? So if anyone ever challenges you, why would you believe in God? Or why would you believe God's in the Bible? Just ask them, well, show me something else that's man-made that can make all these predictions modern science only found out later. Give me some other man-made examples. They won't be able to give you anything. This one answer can answer a whole bunch of questions they throw at you. Do I have to believe in either science or religion? No. They're both different methods to study reality. And in Christianity's case, it matches science. Does science go against my beliefs, or is there scientific support for the Bible? I just gave you scientific support for the Bible. How can you believe there's God behind the Bible? This works for that. Christians only have blind faith. No. I just gave you a scientific reason that there's a God behind the Bible. I mean, all these things can be answered from that. So, here's where our goals for today. Why should you care? I hope you have at least one or more reasons down why, okay, I want to learn a little bit more about how I can support my faith and answer questions. Number 2, what's the real relationship? Just picture those clownfish and sea anemone. Christianity and science, as well as history, logic, philosophy, common experience, geology, all of them, have a mutually supportive relationship. As time goes on, they support each other more and more and more and more. And I have charts of that I can show you. And then one reason from science that you believe there's a God behind the Bible. Have that one. That's a goodie. You can always use that one. Okay. Now, the way that nature show ended was this. So you had the hyenas who just peed all over and marked their territory all over the lion's den. And we have a culture that has been marking their territory all over Christian stuff. So this hyena, the lead one, comes up to the river and starts just cackling at him. In that hyena's narrow-sighted view, he missed the big picture, which would have included the alpha lion had snuck across the river and was in a full charge, and by the time that lead hyena recognized the big picture, the jaws of reality cramped around his neck, broke him, dropped the dead body, and then that alpha lion just looked at the rest of the hyenas who went, we want none of that, and they were gone. When culture tries to tell me that Christianity isn't true, I have some answers so that I can tell them I choose to trust the Alpha and Omega. And you can be in the exact same situation. And again, the only difference between the lion situation and us, we are the top predators. Christianity is the only accurate belief system, and that can be shown. But we're vulnerable if we don't know the reasons why. So, if you want more of this stuff, what we can give you is the next thing I would probably do, and I'd give that to you, is you need simple steps to answer any question. Because when you get challenged, doesn't your mind, even for me, my mind would spin, where do I go? Where do I go with this? You don't think the Bible's true, and you don't like how Christians did bad things, or which way do I? You get flustered and you have no idea where to go, and you've got to react quick. So, I have a simple 3-step tactics that was, somebody else actually came up with the tactics. It's 3 simple steps any one of you can use on any challenge you ever get, even if you don't know anything about what they're asking. Now, and you'll be very effective. You'll look really good. Now, that sounds impossible. I guarantee you it's true. I guarantee you. 3 simple steps. You can handle any challenge against Christianity very effectively, even if you don't know anything about the topic. And then after that, I'd probably give you a few of the smooth stones. Where do I get the term 5 smooth stones? David and Goliath. He was going after something that just looked impossible. He grabs 5 smooth stones, he ends them. There are arguments that can be used to support Christianity that have been polished and hardened over time, and they are not able to be defeated. I've tested them in the worst cases, worst situations. I've tested these. They are 5 smooth stones people are not going to be able to stand against. So, get a simple process, get a few answers to share, and that's kind of the goal. Now, before we end, does anyone have just questions, either about what we talked about or even on other things that you'd want to hear? Any kind of questions? It's kind of hard to have questions on this one because I just downloaded a ton of information on you. So, but if you have any questions that you really want to hear, you can either come and talk to me afterwards or write them on a piece of paper. Give them to your leader, bring them to me. Okay, I'll get you in a second. You were first.
What are those 3 steps?
Okay, the first one is basically, I don't want to go too far over. I think it's like 7 right now. First one is you basically ask them, what do you mean by that? Now, the reason why you do that is you immediately knock the ball back in their court so that it gives you time to think and chill out, and now they have to explain it. But that's not the best reason. The reason why you do that one is you want to show that you're going to listen to them. Listening is very important. When someone's trying to tell you why God doesn't exist, they're going to have a lot of emotion involved. You want them to get it out by talking. And you just earn up some points by listening. Second step is, well, why do you believe that? This is giant important. People make claims all the time. Science is against religion. Well, why do you believe that? Saw it on a meme somewhere. I didn't even use that right, I don't think. I'm old. Most people who have attacks against Christianity, they just hear it off social media. They don't have really good support. So number one, it exposes them. I have found very few people who can come back with a good answer to that and have a good answer. And even in the ones who come back with an answer, when you have to concretely support it, it puts in your mind, wow, I don't really know this as well as I thought I did. So, see, anyone who makes a claim, they have a burden to support it. You can't just say, science is against Christianity. I'm done. It's like, no. Why do you believe that? It's your burden of proof to support it. Third one is, well, have you considered, and then you use one of the 5 smooth stones that I would give you. But now, let's say you know nothing about this. The guy asks you about quantum mechanics. All right? Or she comes up and says, my mom just passed away because of this, that, or whatever. And I have examples of this in my own life with some of my friends right now. Ooh. If you don't have experience with that, you're not going to have some answers. So if you can't hit them with a 5 smooth stone, and when I say hit them, I'm not telling you to win the argument, I'm wanting you to win the person. So you got to love on them at the same time. It's a skill, but it can be developed. We would practice that. But if you have no idea what they're talking about, just say, wow, that's a good question. Let me get back with you on that. And then I will give you just 5 simple sources that you can go online and get top-rate answers to any of the questions. So even if you know nothing about it, all you did is you pump them up a little bit. One guy told me, he was the smartest guy I've ever run into. His IQ was just unbelievable. And I met a lot of people in different colleges and that, not as impressed. This guy was unbelievable. But he couldn't answer any of my questions as far as I gave him reasons to believe in God. He couldn't give any response to them. But he says, well, Jesus was just made up because he was copied from pagan myths. I mean, Mithra was born of a virgin and born on December 25th, and Horus had so many disciples, and he went on with this. At first, I never heard that before. So I said to him, I was like, wow, that sounds like a really good argument. I haven't looked into it. Let me get back with you on that. I also said to him, the reason why I bet I can get back to you tomorrow on it and show you why it's not true is I have this much evidence that God resurrected exactly as is claimed, and I have your claim right now that sounds good. So I'll probably come back with an answer tomorrow. And I did. I said, I went to step 2. I said, well, why did you believe that? Well, Bill Maher had a movie on it, and there was something on Zeitgeist on YouTube on it. And I was like, okay, have you considered that those are not very good sources? Both Bill Maher and that Zeitgeist are either dangerously ignorant in their research or dangerously deceptive because all their claims are wrong. Now, Mithra was born, I guess you could say Mithra was born of a virgin because Mithra was born out of a rock in a cave. There was a rock, and then Mithra came out of it. Now, I didn't know rocks could be virgins, but if you want to stretch it that much to say it, I was like, okay, I'll give you that one. Sounds like stretching it to me. Other question? Mrs. Kyle, you had one. Pain? Right, evil. I'll give you the very end answer. The very end answer is if there's anything that you really believe is evil or wrong, you can't have evil or wrong without there being God. Because in order to have bad, you have to have a standard of good. In order to have a standard for good, you're going to need God. So basically, the thing you're trying to disprove, if there is true evil or true right and wrong, then God has to exist. You have to have an absolute standard beyond humanity. But anyways, to answer Lex Luthor's question, all right, they're trying to put you what they call a horns of a dilemma. If God's all powerful, he's not all loving. If he's not all loving, he's not all powerful. But what they answered that to be is, have you considered that there might be a bigger reason? See, now, if we were just fish to God, if we were just goldfish, then God's supposed to keep us fed and keep our environment nice and clean. And he hasn't done that. But if God wants something, a relationship more than goldfish, he wants a relationship of love and trust. That requires something entirely more. So as soon as you allow free will choice so you can have love and trust, evil's now already in the world. And if you want to develop your character, you're going to have some challenges. So in the end, as far as Lex Luthor's question, God can be all loving, all powerful, but just have a bigger reason why he allows certain things to happen. Now that's a short answer. There's more of an answer to it, but was that reasonable? Others? Yeah.
Who are some of your favorite resources or maybe books or other commentators on apologetics that you would recommend?
Okay. Books, that'll be a little tough. The thing about books is, what I'm trying to do on my website, so my website is thoughtfulbeliefs.org. I'm trying to summarize everything down so it's in handout stuff because a lot of people won't go for the books. If you want books, though, this one's maybe not, okay, there's a book called I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist. That title alone makes it worth buying. Frank Turek is the guy who did that one. That one has a decent overall coverage of a whole bunch of reasons why to believe in God. If you want super, super high-level intellectual stuff that no one's going to be able to beat, Reasonable Faith with William Lane Craig. He's a philosopher that you have to read his work 5 times before it starts making sense. But his arguments can't be beat. He has just dominated everybody. You know that Richard Dawkins, the book that's making people not be Christians? He has completely refused to ever debate William Lane Craig every time he asks because he knows he'll be destroyed. So now Richard Dawkins used to be one of the top atheists. Now he's not because his own people turned against him and said, you're a coward. And he is. But he's not a coward. He's smart because he'll get destroyed. Reasonable Faith with William Lane Craig, that is the highest level philosophy you're going to get. I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist by Frank Turek is more enjoyable. He has a website called Cross-Examined. Right now, that website's better than mine because it's more filled out and everything. So if you want videos and other things, that's good. If you want science, Reasons to Believe, rtb.org. rtb.org is filled with a bunch of scientists who I've checked out. I've met them, talked with them, have long interactions with them. They know what they're talking about, and they're doing it for the right reason. If you want overall stuff that also can help you in faith in a lot of different ways, RZIM, that's Ravi Zacharias. A friend of mine, Abdu Murray, is like one of the lead guys there now, and he's got some really good stuff out there too. So that's a good question.
Can you repeat your website?
My website is thoughtfulbeliefs.org. Now, the way my website's going to be organized is it's mainly geared towards skeptics. My favorite thing is having a skeptics night. If you ever want to have one here, let me know. I try to get people who are against Christianity or have doubts to come and then just hit me with whatever they want. Then I show them a lot of love and answer their questions. So my website's a lot set up for them. So the first thing I do is I try to show why this is even important. Because a lot of people just say, I don't care about beliefs. So if you run into a friend who said beliefs aren't important, you can believe anything you want. That first section gives you, this is why you need to care. It's going to impact you more than anything else in your life, no question. The second thing is, it covers, is there truth? Because they say, okay, it's important, but there's no way we can know, and there's no truth. You have your truth, I have my truth, there's no truth. Is that true? Basically, I show that any argument against truth refutes itself. So we have truth. So if this is super important and we can find out an answer, then we start looking into it. Then I go into science reasons to believe there's a God, history reasons to know that Jesus was resurrected, and if you believe anything else, there's only a handful of options. Either they were lying, it's a legend, they were all nuts, or he's the Lord. There's only a handful of options. The evidence disproves all of them except for one. And I try to use all the atheists and the non-Christians as my evidence. All the scholars now who are against Christianity, they know the evidence for the resurrection. And they used to say there was hallucinations, that he was only in a coma, they all lied, it's a legend. Now they simply say, something happened, we just don't know what. That's a delusional belief. When you believe something against the evidence, there's a whole bunch of evidence that points directly to God being, or Jesus being resurrected. And you know it's miraculous because it's made lawyers go to heaven. There's a lot of lawyers who became Christians and wrote books because they studied the evidence for the resurrection. They're like, there's no way around it. This is the only rational belief. So the scholars just say, well, something happened, we just don't know what. No, we do know what. We have all the evidence here. You're just waiting for something to come your way. That's an ad futurist fallacy. That's bad thinking. Good questions, man. This is a strong group. You guys can do some real good work. Anything else? Yes. I talked too long, so now you forgot? If you think of it, you can come after. Okay, let's just end with prayer, and then I'll stay as long as anyone else wants. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for all the things that you've constantly done for us, the blessings you constantly give, and allowing us to be in your family. And if we totally understood what that meant, we'd be worshiping nonstop. Thank you so much for that. Help us to pass this now to somebody else. Help us to get in the game for you the way and be pleasing to you and not miss our opportunities that you give us. We love you. We thank you, and help us to be your good warriors and loving warriors. In Jesus' name, amen.